Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to HOTFIX, the greatest video game podcast on the planet. Oh, baby.
Hello.
Come on, that's not even on the same level as my
highly... I was providing the facial expressions. I was providing the visual backup to the... Yeah, see, that's why
ladies and gentlemen, today could be quite a big day for HOTFIX because we are launching this, ladies and gentlemen. So if you come with me on a merry trip to this screen, good actual God, it is a HOTFIX Patreon campaign. Now, allow me to read this off and explain to you what the hell this is, okay? And then Mr. Kirioff will, he will assist me in the explanation, no doubt. Or he'll just sit there like a gormless wanker. Who knows? Well, you can't even see him. I can see him. He's pulling faces at me. What the hell? Oh, no, that's just his normal face. Oh! Anyway.
God.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Right, so this is the brand new HOTFIX Patreon campaign, okay? Now, to prevent me from rambling, because I ramble a hell of a lot, I'm going to read off what has actually been wrote, okay? Because, well, it's a laser focus, Mr. Kirioff, and it doesn't involve or include crazed rambling. Okay, let's do this. We're taking HOTFIX to the next level. To do that, we need your support. We love HOTFIX, along with thousands of you who share our love for the show. But unfortunately, due to the nature of YouTube and its ad-dependent, view-driven revenue model, it's not worth the hours required each week to research, film, and produce the podcast. See, we give you facts at Unit Lost. We don't beat around the bush. We just tell you how it is, and that's how it is.
No rambling.
Enter Patreon. Patreon. In our eyes, Patreon is a subscription model, a model that allows fans to directly support the content they love. So let's put HOTFIX on the line. We want HOTFIX to be a sustainable show capable of standing on its own, and to do that, we need direct support from you guys, the fans of the show. Aside from keeping tea in our cups during the show, your support will go directly into upgrading HOTFIX. We want to create a small studio area, an area in which we can both come together and film in person. We already have the space, the glorious Shack of Win, but we need to develop the area to allow for such a magnificent idea to come to fruition. The support will also ensure there is never a reason not to create HOTFIX. Sometimes we've had to drop the show in favour of more view-friendly content, and that's not right. HOTFIX has value, and we want to put this value on the line. We also want to expand the HOTFIX offering. We want to produce a weekly spin-off HOTFIX show centred around our gaming experiences that previous week. We'll call this show the Unit Lost Pubcast, and there's the fancy logo, which is like a, pub coat of arms thing. Beautiful. We'll also make sure audio-only versions of the HOTFIX podcast are available to everyone. This will include iTunes and SoundCloud versions, plus other podcast distributors as we work out which are the best ones to go for. So that's it. If you like HOTFIX and would like to help directly support this show, then please check out the subscription tiers below. Now, I will explain the tiers, because there are three. The first one is $1. Now, I cannot stress enough how $1 helps a ton, right? This helps a load, like an absolute shed load. Like, for you to just give $1 to subscribe at the $1 tier, it would be amazing, okay? So for this, we'll give your username a shout out at the start of HOTFIX. As a special thanks for the support, I read that as if it was two sentences. It's not. We will give your username a shout out at the start of HOTFIX as a special thanks for the support. You'll also get access to our private Patreon activity wall, but do note that shout outs only occur once and at the beginning of the next HOTFIX episode after you subscribe. So I think that's pretty clear, isn't it, Mr. Kirioff?
Yep, that is clear cut. Okay. Just the one, you're not going to have it every single week. That would be massively excessive, and it would take an hour for the actual shout outs to occur. Not really.
And the next tier we've got is the $5 subscription tier. Now, HOTFIX goes live on Thursdays. However, supporting us at this tier will give you exclusive access to the podcast one day early. So that means you'll get it on a Wednesday. You'll be sent a private link via Patreon to the YouTube videos, so you can watch them each Wednesday. You'll also get the above rewards as well, so you get the shout out and all of that stuff. And the final tier, this is $10. You get everything above and early access to the Unit Lost Pubcast. Now, this show will air on Fridays. However, you'll have access to it on Thursdays. So I think that's pretty clear cut. You can also pledge at whatever amount you deem the show to be worth, because the whole idea with this Patreon is we know we really enjoy HOTFIX, and we know loads of people enjoy HOTFIX. So let's put it on the line. Let's see if HOTFIX can actually be a sustainable show instead of something that we just kind of do that takes us hours to produce, which, when we get down to it, because everything, I'm afraid, ladies and gentlemen, is about money. We have to, we can't skirt around that. It just is. It takes way too much to make for what we get out of it. But have we created something with enough value to give you guys, well, to make you guys sort of think, you know what, let's support this.
That's the thing. I mean, HOTFIX is pretty much our favourite thing that we do. We really like enjoying HOTFIX, like recording HOTFIX. It's enjoyable to research, it's enjoyable to record, and we really like being able to have like discussions with people who comment on it. We like the level of interaction that it gets and the opinions that we can get from people. But the fact of the matter is that at the moment, the way that YouTube's going is, even as HOTFIX gets more and more views, it earns less and less money. It's a ridiculous paradox, but that's just how it's going. So the show's gone from being something that is growing to something that's worth doing, to increasingly becoming something where it's like, it's worth doing because we enjoy it, but in terms of actually, essentially putting food on the table, it's not worth doing, because it takes pretty much the entire day. Well, the entire recording day is gone. That's it.
Here's an example. I mean, if you wanna talk about the dirty aspect of finances and stuff when it comes to YouTube, we put a video out on Grand Theft Auto which got more views than the average HOTFIX, which literally took about 5 minutes to make. And it's like, that is, YouTube promotes that. It promotes the make the videos, the short montages, the clips, the the things that can go mass market, not what we generally do. And HOTFIX it has a massive level of engagement from the users. It has a massive user retention. That means most people who watch HOTFIX watch the entire thing. That is ridiculous. Okay, it's got thousands of viewers. This is a good show, but we do not get like an equivalent sort of like, I don't really want to call it a reward, but it's not really worth our time in terms of YouTube, because YouTube just promotes how many views you get on a video. Yeah. So if you do a quick video and it gets the same number of views, then great,
That's the thing. I mean, YouTube essentially promotes, well, I was going to say the quick fix, but that kind of sounds like a play on words. But that's literally what it is. It's those 5 minute clips, isn't it? It's the funny montages. It's like, okay, here you go, bang, there's the action, off you go. And that's what YouTube likes. That's what YouTube promotes, and that's what gets rankings, and that's what gets views. HOTFIX, YouTube doesn't promote it. YouTube doesn't like shows like this. Shows like this don't do that well in terms of being worth creating. And that's not what we want at all, because we obviously like making it, otherwise we wouldn't make it every week. As far as we can, we make it every single week. And when we've missed it, it's been for like really very good reasons. But at the same time, if you were to sit down and say to me, okay, you've got a choice. If you record HOTFIX, then you can spend the entire day doing it. You haven't really got time to do anything else, and you will get 10% of if you did 5 5-minute montages that took a grand total of about an hour to put together, encode and upload. Well, you'd go for the montages, wouldn't you? You'd go for the shorter videos. You'd do that. But we don't want to do that. That's not what the channel's based on. The channel's based on stuff like this. This is like the flagship for Unit Lost, HOTFIX.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a load of bollocks as well, really, because, HOTFIX does get thousands of views. It is a viable show in that sense, but it's not, given the way things are monetized. So what we're doing is we're just putting it on the line. Is HOTFIX actually worth it? Does it have value to you guys for you to actually come and support HOTFIX and get the various tier rewards that you'll get, like early access to the show? And we want to take it to the next level. We want to make sure every HOTFIX has the time-stamped links in the description, because we know they work. But again, they take a lot of time to put together and stick into the description. We want audio versions available. Again, that takes time. We want SoundCloud versions. That costs money for SoundCloud, for premium SoundCloud accounts to keep uploading the stuff. iTunes, podcast versions. There's loads of other podcast things. I mean, I think Player FM is one we could put it on. This place behind me here, it's kind of deceptive because it's just white. You can't really see the distance, but there's quite a lot of space behind me there. We want that to be almost like a studio area for HOTFIX. Yeah. So Kiri can come to me and we can sit together and we can. You know what? I actually made I made a thing, didn't I? You know what? I made a picture.
Yes, you did.
Hang on.
But I mean, this is the thing as well. We don't just want to keep going how it is. We want to improve it and make it better. But it is literally a case of, at the moment, for me to drive over to Styes and for us to set up a studio area would probably cost me more in petrol than that week's HOTFIX would get back.
For you to drive half the way,
loss.
Yeah, for you to drive half the way to me would be a loss straight away.
And we don't want to do it. I want to make it better and bigger, and this seems to be the best way to do it, because we know that you guys like it. We know that you well, we know you guys like it because we know that of all the things we do, it's got the highest retention rates. Now, if you speak to most channels and say, yeah, this show we do that's an hour and a half long has like a really high retention rate, they would be shocked by that because that's not what you see on YouTube. Longer videos typically do not do better in terms of keeping the viewer engaged, keeping people watching it till the end. HOTFIX is like a standout example of that. It's it's the exception. That's really good.
I mean, well, yeah, obviously. I mean, I'm going to show you now, guys. I'm going to switch to the swap to the monitor capture. This was what we had in mind, right? Obviously, it won't look like this. It's just like a mock-up, but you can see how we've got a TV on the wall behind us, which we would like, have like the guests on through Skype. Me and Kiri sitting at like a desk and maybe some sort of branding going on or something, but make it look, just more like a polished production instead of just like an off the cuff kind of like webcam show, which we want to invest in it something, we want to make it better. But yeah, that's it, guys. I don't really want to say too much about it. We will at the start of every hotfix, as I say, going forward, give a shout out to people who do become patrons and do subscribe to HOTFIX, because as I say, we're going to put this on the line and see if this is a way of us taking HOTFIX to the next level, because who knows, it might not be, but like I said, it's just totally on the line. There's no beating around the bush. It's like, is it good enough? Let's find out.
It is worth as well saying, just like giving a little bit more information on the Unit Lost podcast, which is at the start of the hotfix, we've got into the habit of saying what we've been playing during the week, and quite often that will kind of just spiral into just any old discussion. We want to take that part of hotfix out, and we want to make it its own show. So we want to do basically a second podcast every week where we talk about what we've been playing during the week, which will no doubt result in just any old conversation we want to have, which it doesn't have a place in hotfix. It's not what we want to do with this show, but we still want to do that because that's like, well, that's the kind of conversations that we have on a day-to-day basis anyway. So we want to bring that to you guys and make it its own thing. So that's supporting HOTFIX actually supports the creation of that show. I'm just
showing them the little the pubcast overlay thing, the fancy thing. But yeah, like as you can see from this, it kind of looks like HOTFIX, and this will still be the webcam kind of informal chat thing going forward. But as Kiri said, we both really enjoyed doing that at the start of HOTFIX, but HOTFIX is, when you get down to it, it's a laser focused podcast on gaming, like topical news basically, and we give our opinions on it, and that's what it is, and that's what it's going to stay as. So we've rambled for 12 minutes at the start of this hotfix. We're going to get stuck into it. Oh baby. All right then, let me just get some stuff sorted out. Oh, and of course it's patreon.com/hotfix if you want to find it, but there'll be a link in the description. Okay, Mr. Kirioff, the first thing we have, well, you know what, let's talk about Battlefront first. Okay, so I'm looking at Games Radar, and Battlefront, there's quite a lot of information, all right, that's come out with Battlefront, but there's quite a few things which are a bit dodgy. I mean, I've got a list of differences between the old Battlefront, let's say, was it Battlefront 2?
Yeah, Battlefront 2.
What'll be available in the I mean, what is this? It's not well, it kind of is. Is it a remake? I don't know.
I think it's kind of it's a reboot, isn't it? It's like, it's not a direct sequel. It's kind of a sort of like Tomb Raider was a.
So I'm just going to blast through these real quick. So we've got Clone Wars and Galactic Civil War. This was obviously in Battlefront 2. Space battles were in it. 64 players on PC, right? And it had tons of bots outside of the 64 players anyway. It had 30 unique vehicles. It had 26 maps, all with different variants. It had a single-player campaign, which, to be fair, the single-player campaign was just kind of like the multiplayer, kind of, just with like... that's not... The fact that that's not in the new one isn't really a problem to me, but whatever. 23 playable heroes and villains. The next... EA's this thing, whatever they're making now, will only... it's only the Galactic Civil War, right? So basically, it's not... anything to do with the Clone Wars. It's just the original trilogy.
Yeah.
Right? There's no space battles. It's only 40 players with no bots. Only 6 confirmed vehicles at the moment. Only 4 planets. No single player campaign. Now, what I'm looking at on Games Radar before we go into this is just like they do sum up some of this. So the new Battlefront will focus on the original trilogy. Yes, we know that. There are plenty of vehicles, but there'll be no space combat. We know that. An interesting thing they do say, though, which is not through the list of information I just read off, is the whole like special characters thing where you can play as Darth Vader, kind of, and you can play as other people, like, you know, iconic characters, but it doesn't exactly say, like, they're not sure, but this is probably going to be through some sort of unlock system, almost like a kill streak style thing. So, you know, oh, I've got 10 kills, Christ, I can transform into Darth Vader and kill somebody with Force Choke, or Boba Fett and blow somebody away. It's like, well, that's, you know, okay, that sounds all right, like, but I mean, I mean, should we touch on the let's touch on the bloody trailer before we really get into this. I'm not going to play the trailer because I guess everybody's seen the trailer by now. This was made with the engine, as it states at the bottom, in engine, but it's basically a CGI trailer created with the engine. You know, it's like heavily scripted.
Yeah.
Impossible camera angles, impossible situations, and you know that, and probably well over the top in terms of effects going off, because this has been put through a render rig of some description.
Yeah,
you know, it's like that is not how the game is going to look. So, Mr. Kirioff, I'm going to go back to the webcam screens and let's get into it. Battlefront.
I'm not going to lie.
Oh, and also, hang on, another bit of information. Doesn't use Battlelog, but kind of will use Battlelog because it's having its own Battlelog made.
Which makes no sense to me whatsoever. Why would you not just integrate it into the existing one, especially since they quite clearly taken all of the inspiration for the actual game from the Battlefield series? Not the Battlefront series, it's clearly taken from the Battlefield series, which is exactly what I was afraid of. I don't think at any point I sat down and went, oh, it's going to be terrible, it's going to be crap, because I kind of held out a bit of hope that actually maybe they would be sensible about it and actually give the fans of the series what they wanted. But it's EA, so I'm not entirely sure why I thought that was going to happen, especially when you look back at previous examples. I mean, my go-to example for that is look at Dragon Age 2.
Yeah.
The fans said Dragon Age Origins was awesome. Can we have another one? And they went, kind of. And that is exactly kind of what's happened here. It is literally just going to be Battlefield Star Wars. That's all it's going to be. And that's really kind of sad, because that's not what the game was. And it's very easy to sit there and judge now. And I do like this list where it's like a comparison of what happened for the PS2 version for Battlefront 2 and what's happening with this. Now, admittedly, times have changed considerably since then. I mean, in some ways, actually comparing that list, whilst it's kind of funny and it does show a severe switch in attitude between the studio that was making it then and the studio that's making it now, or at least the publisher that's controlling them, there aren't that many... Well, no, that's how to phrase this. Let's face it, Battlefield and Call of Duty are two massively popular first-person shooters. They are essentially the market leaders. They're the people that you look to when you look as to how to do a successful game. Now, there's already a game that's kind of like it. It's not got the bots, but if you look at, say, for example, PlanetSide 2, you've got a lot of vehicles, a lot of customization, a lot of different maps, a huge open battle going across an entire continent. In a way, it's kind of similar in concept to Battlefront 2. You've got this kind of colossal ongoing war. Now, if you look at the comparison between how well that does and how well Battlefield and Call of Duty does, there's a severe disconnect, because Call of Duty and Battlefield blow it out of the water. So whilst this list kind of is like, they're cutting it down a lot, I think in some ways them cutting it down a lot is kind of just how it was going to go anyway, because they're going to go for what they know sells. They know that Battlefield sells. They know that Call of Duty sells. They don't necessarily know that throwing years of development at a colossal game with like bots everywhere and like 26 maps straight off the bat, and countless vehicles.
That shocked me. Well, not shocked me, but it does show the difference in the times we live in, where we've only got like what is this? How many maps have we got? 4 planets, right? So we could maybe say 4 maps, right? There may be different maps on the same planet, but there's definitely not 26 maps at launch. Now, they may have made the maps, but it'll just all be sold as DLC. It'll be part of the Battlefront Premium and all of that stuff. And it is indicative of the times that we live in, where things do get cut down like that and get made like... So the launch offering is not the best time to buy the game. It's strange. But what I do know, I mean, like, comparing it to PlanetSide 2, I'm not sure that's... I don't think it would ever be like that with like the scale of that, or what that game proposed.
Yeah, I kind of, it's the only thing I could think of that kind of ever made me think kind of in similar terms to Battlefront 2. Because I remember Battlefront 2 and the fact that there were so many people. There were bots everywhere. And the only time I've really got that sense of scale has been from PlanetSide 2 personally. It's the only thing I could think at the time. But I think I don't know whether it's really fair to sit there and actually sit there and go, they're messing this up because the features aren't the same. Would those features necessarily work these days? I mean, they've got to,
single player campaign. I don't care. Honestly, it's a multiplayer game. I don't care about a single player campaign.
Kind of irrelevant, really.
I don't even know why DICE insist on putting single player campaigns in Battlefield games. Anyway, it's like Battlefield Hardline from Visceral. Why the hell has that got a single player? Why does that exist anyway? But what I've noticed with the marketing material so far with this game, especially with the trailer, they're heavily pushing the way the game looks, which does look fantastic. But like I said, that's not indicative of the game, because that is basically essentially a pre-rendered demo in the in-game engine, which is fine. I mean, it does say this is not actual gameplay, but it does say in-engine. That seems to be the way of getting around what's going on. It does look fantastic. I've no doubt that when the game launches, it probably won't look as good. Or it may look as good, there just won't be as much stuff going on, maybe. But it'll still look pretty damn good. This is going to be like top tier graphical fidelity easily, easily on PC, right? On the consoles, I don't know. Although they did say they are shooting for 60 FPS on the consoles, which is kind of interesting. But I kind of, when I sat down and watched the reveal and I was waiting for it, I thought it was going to be something like that, where it was not really the game, but it kind of was a bit of the game, where they use the engine. But they, I don't know. I think I expected it to just be Battlefield with Star Wars skins, which is kind of what it is. Like, I expected that, because it's just like, I mean, at the end of the day, whatever we say about this game, it's going to be one of the biggest sellers easily. I mean, this is coming out.
It would be when it comes down to pre-orders and everything else. It's going to be massively successful, and I think part of the massive success of it will be, if we're honest here, one of the other reasons that they've made it like Battlefield is because Battlefield sells. And if you go to your standard Battlefield player, even if they're not particularly a fan of Star Wars, and essentially go, this is basically Star Wars Battlefield, they know what that is. They know who makes it, they know how it works, they know there's the class system, there's the unlocks, they know how this game is going to play before the game is even released. So by doing that, they're also tapping into a market that possibly might not have even been that interested. Now, I know people are going to sit there and go, oh, well, it's Star Wars, everyone's interested. But that's not true. It's just not true.
No, it's not, no.
A certain generation of gamers and of, I guess, just people who like sci-fi stuff have a deep love for Star Wars. But there's also a generation after that who aren't nearly that fussed. Like, they're not nearly that bothered. It wasn't such a huge cultural thing for them. The effect has watered down as time's gone on. And if they can get that generation in,
that's a good way of putting it, watered down. I just wanted to give like an example of like how I've seen this play out in my family. You have like, if you take my parents' generation, they watched Star Wars: A New Hope when it came out, right? They were mid-20s, whatever. It comes out, they watched the first one. We're talking like, what is it, 77 was it, or something like that? It came out. Probably people are going to slate me for that, but it was in the late 70s. I'm pretty sure it was, because I think Return of the Jedi was 82 or something, or 83. But their kids, so our generation, we know about Star Wars, right? Our parents knew about it. I grew up with, I had like the original trilogy on VHS. Like on Dolby Digital Special Edition VHS or something ridiculous.
I had that as well.
Our generation has started to have kids, so you see their kids, and what are the toys they play with? It's like Lego Star Wars. It's such a big brand, right? But I still think like what Kiri said is true, because it is kind of watered down from generation to generation, and obviously a Battlefield game that is Star Wars and futuristic. People like what's releasing at the end of this year, the new Star Wars film. This is coming out around about the same time, just before I think this comes out. The hype is going to be unreal. This is probably going to break sales records for the Battlefield franchise. It's probably going to get up there in terms of Call of Duty sales figures, which is going to be pretty immense. And I don't know. I kind of feel when I see stuff like this, I am looking forward to seeing how it plays out. I'm not massively overhyped, like holy shit, I want to play this game now, because I know the history of the developer, I know the history of the publisher, I know what they're going for, and hell, maybe it is a good game. I only find out when I play the game, but I just think like I kind of feel really helpless. Like with these massive juggernauts come along, it doesn't really matter what you say. It's like just go away. You know, your opinion counts for nothing because we're just going to make loads of money anyway. So deal with it, kind of thing.
I'm kind of split. I think on the one hand, it's a shame to see the actual like what Battlefront was. It's a shame to see that die because it was an experience that I can't really think where you get elsewhere. It was something that when you played it was just like. It kind of blew your mind a bit. It's like this is huge. This is insane. This is amazing. This is what I'd imagine it would actually be like to be in a battle in Star Wars, which is what you want, you know.
Yeah. Well, hell, what did I say last week? Like, when we were talking about it last week, I said, look, they need like I want to be flying down the trench on a Death Star, and I want to blow the Death Star. That should be a mission objective. There's no space combat. You know, it's like, what the hell are the objectives? I want to be on. Oh god, it's Endor. It's Endor, isn't it? The jungle planet with the Ewoks on. I want to be the rebels trying to break into the shield generator to disable it for whoever's in space to blow up the bloody Death Star. It's like that's what I want as a mission. I don't want a little fucking shitty capture point objective game or something. And that's what's going to piss me off. If when the game gets, you know, it launches and we get told about the fucking features and the maps and stuff, and it isn't like that, I will not be happy because all I want to do is play the battles that have happened in the fucking films. And you know what? Do you know what my favourite battle was on Battlefront 2? It was the Clone Wars one on the desert planet. That was my favourite one, you know, with the gunships and all the massive walkers and all that. That was crazy. I really enjoyed that. That was my favourite battle. Okay, that's not in this, which I don't know whether I'm too fussed because I don't really want to be on fucking Naboo with gun guns. No.
Yeah, that would be
and droids. I don't really like the droid shit. But although they were in the thingy, but at least they had the clone, basically the stormtroopers. So yeah, that's what will do my head in. If this is not giving me iconic battles, like, you know, you want to be on Hoth, you want to be fucking, you know, trying to man the evacuation of the rebels while you're getting smashed by the Empire. That's what you want. You don't want just some, it's a snow map. There's the Hoth base and there's the Imperials and you just fight and the game ends. It's like, no, that's not how it went down. The Imperials are trying to blow up the shield generator so they could wreck the base. It's like, you know, that's what'll send me wild, Mr. Kirioff.
I think, actually, although I've said that it's like they've moved with the times, this is kind of essentially what the game was going to be, pretty much. If it was going to be made by any of the major publishers, this is pretty much what the game would be, I think. I completely agree with you because the worry for me is that they do take the battlefield part of Star Wars Battlefront and make it the focus of it as opposed to making actually Star Wars the focus of it because... That's, I mean, for me personally, when it comes to Star Wars, there's like 3 tiers. There's lightsaber fights is what you want. Base battles is what you want. Actually, for me, ground combat is like a far third behind those two because when you think about Star Wars, you think about lightsabers, you think about TIE fighters, the Millennium Falcon, Star Destroyers, X-wings. You don't so much think like Rebel guy on what is it, a Tauntaun, whatever it's called. You don't so much think of that. It's like, it's in the film, but it's not a focus. The focus is the big, like, base operatic battles that happen. You know, the fight around the Death Star, the fight around the second Death Star, attempting to get the shield down so that you can then fly the Millennium Falcon into it. And already the game is completely missing, like, one of the most iconic things about the series. It's just gone. So, in a way, that kind of just fills me with a bit of dread that actually they're going to look at the whole thing and just go, well... It's a bit Star Wars. It's mostly Battlefield, but it's a bit Star Wars, so that's okay. It needs to be like 90% Star Wars and 10% Battlefield, not the other way around.
Well, I think that's fair enough. I think it's like I think I've got what I expected it would be. Really. Yeah. Like I was hoping for all this. I mean, hell, maybe that'll happen. Who knows? But let's move on to the next topic because this is quite interesting, Mr. Kirioff. So you may notice a video I made on the channel the other day about Regicide, which had an amazing teaser trailer, which kind of implied that we were on some sort of chaos incursion into some sort of imperial outpost and possibly some form of inquisitor has been sent to deal with this mess, but he's slightly going insane and he's sending a mental video log back to whoever the hell's going to see it, and then it's a chess game. It's like, excuse me. Anyway, there could be a savior. There could be a savior. Hope. There could be hope. So Total War Warhammer, which should just be called Total Warhammer or something.
It really, I don't know why.
I know they've
got. I know it's like, I know there's a brand to protect here because it's Total War is the brand, but I have to say, I would have absolutely preferred it if it was just called Total Warhammer, because Total War Warhammer is, it doesn't roll off the tongue, does it? It just sounds a bit off.
Well, yeah, oh, hang on. So yeah, I mean, if we look at what we've got, right? So we got a CGI trailer, right? Now, I don't like CGI trailers, but I see people getting hyped about CGI trailers, and that's fine. However, there are some things you can take from the CGI trailer, so you can kind of see what is sort of in the game. Okay, so PC Gamer have made a nice article where they sort of show you sort of the bits and pieces, a couple of screen grabs of what we see. So obviously we see loads of orcs now. Well, yeah, if it's a Warhammer game without orcs in, well, what the hell is going on there? That is just retarded. That just could not be a thing. So yeah, we've got orcs. That's great. There appears to be goblins as well. There's Karl Franz of the Crazed Empire, which is basically the human faction. So obviously Empire in it, but then that goes without saying. Again, it's like that would be like not having the Imperium in 40k. What the hell? There's magic, bloke. There's magic, right?
You know. Anyway,
there's dwarves. Okay, again, that is kind of like, yeah. There's the crazy undead, which, yeah.
I have to admit, I don't know a huge amount about the undead in Warhammer, so I think that's going to be quite interesting, because I don't know a lot about them, and that's something I'm quite looking forward to about this, because and I'd forgotten about the other one, because there's another faction in there, which is Tzinch shows up in the trailer.
Yeah,
before we get talking about it, which is God, I like that.
Well, I was about to get into that. I mean, like, they kind of do say in the article here, it is nice to see something different than Khorne, because me and Kiri were having a conversation before we started HOTFIX, and I said to him, you know what, as soon as I seen it, I'm like, oh, there's a lot of change, which was like a bit ridiculous, because I didn't really expect that, because when I seen a PC Gamer says it was a light wizard which got taken over. I did think it was a priest of Sigmar. I thought it was like a warrior priest guy, but apparently it isn't. I'm not that into fantasy, more 40k for me, but yeah, so he gets taken over, and as it was happening, I'm like, oh, here we go. He's just gonna like explode into a fucking, like a mess of blood, and just be like this rippling Hulk, and like go rah, and like do something like that. But he didn't. He just went all crazy, and I think he had the mental Tzinch thing in his eye for a bit, and then the Lord of Change just appeared behind him. It was like, ooh, okay. I'll let Mr. Kirillov say what he said to me about that before, but like I kind of like it, because Tzinch is like way more insidious than Khorne and all the rest of them. It's like, yeah, he's nasty. It's
like Khorne is essentially like baby's first chaos god. He just kills for the sake of killing. That's all he is. There's no, I mean, if you look at 40k for instance, Khorne has no psychers. Khorne doesn't like psychers. All he does is he just picks out one guy who's really good at killing and goes, here you go, have some power. And then that guy takes the power and uses it to just be more killy. No spells, no magic, no nothing. It's just very cut and dry. It's just, he kills because he likes death, and that's it. Nurgle is a bit more complicated, because with Nurgle it's a case of it's supposed to be the gift of Nurgle you receive, which fills you with a holy power and makes you undying, and you vomit flies and disease over people. But it's called the gift of Nurgle. It's Papa Nurgle's giving you a present, as opposed to taking over your body and filled it with like horrible diseases. So that's a little bit different. It's like a little bit more complicated. It's like, is it really a gift or is it really a curse? No one's really sure. Tzinch is just way better than both, because you don't know what's going on. He has plans for absolutely everything. You could be walking down the street and you sprout 8 tentacles out of your head, and it's just because Tzinch has gone, well, about 80 years ago I decided you'd do that on this day, so there you go. It's a lot more insidious, and you don't really know what's happening, and things that are done by Tzinch aren't necessarily beneficial to him, but then they might be beneficial to him like 100 years down the line. It's way more kind of, I guess, convoluted and just more interesting than the very cut and dry approach of, that guy's got an horrible wasting disease and he kills people, and that guy likes killing people so he kills people. Because that's essentially all Nurgle in Khorne art. Slaanesh we just won't go near, because that's that's just
you know what's interesting though, I mean, they do say at the start of the article, let me bring it back, that they're not sure, well, they say that Chaos aren't currently listed as a playable faction, but could still be an NPC army on the world map. So if Chaos are not playable, that would be quite bad, because Chaos, well, but listen, hang on, son. I think though, if they are like the enemy faction on the on the single player, it kind of just makes sense that it's Tzeentch because it's more of like an infiltration thing, and it's slowly they're corrupting away. It's not Christ fucking corners have arrived and everyone's getting butchered. It's like, ooh, we don't know what's going on, and that could like maybe promote like a kind of almost intellectual campaign, you know, like, ooh, what's going on? We need to sort this out. I mean, hell, maybe you could slowly become just accept the gifts bloke of Tzeentch.
Well, I quite like the suggestion that they've made here. Right? It's like, will Chaos be a faction in their own right, or will corrupt humans be able to invite demons into battle, desperate to turn back the double threat of the orcs and the undead?
Yeah.
Now, if that turns out to be a case, I'll actually be really happy with that. Because, again, it feeds into that kind of insidious thing of Tzeentch. It's like offering the desperate humans who are, you know, on the verge of being overrun by the orcs and the undead, offering the humans a way to fight back, except it's Tzeentch. So it might not, you know, it might not cost you anything now, but it could cost you, you know, the Empire itself a few hundred years down the line. I really like that. So if they play that up, I won't mind Chaos not being playable if they really kind of integrate what we see in the trailer with, you know, with the Lord of Change appearing, and that being almost like a story of how part of the Empire turns to Chaos or something like that. I quite like that. And I have to admit, I'm not too fussed about Chaos not being a playable faction because, just like you said, you can't have a Warhammer game without orcs.
Yeah.
As well, you can't really have a Warhammer game without Chaos. They crop up absolutely everywhere. Even in Space Marine, when you first play it, it's like, oh my god! So orcs have taken over this massive planet, and it's like a manufactorium. You got to go around and murder all the orcs, and then Chaos shows up at the end. It's like, no matter what you do, Chaos always appears, and I kind of like it if instead of just being the standard bad guy villains, where it's just like, well, Chaos are here because they're evil, there'd actually be something a bit more insidious and a bit more interesting than that, because that seems to be their storyline. It's just, why Chaos here? Oh, because they're Chaos. I want more than just that.
Yeah, just like they're in it for the sake of it. I mean, I think let's look at like what this on paper is a really good fit. Okay, this is the Total War games. Okay, are obviously games about. I don't really want to simplify this, but they're. Well, it's saying that ancient combat isn't really fair because you've got Empire Total War, but they're a game about large armies on a battlefield engaging each other effectively, right? When you get down to it, they do have Empire management, which does change from game to game, and all the rest of that stuff. But it fits so well for fantasy because that's essentially how the tabletop's played. I mean, you do have large. I mean, you have the movement trays, don't you, with large amounts of units, and you move the whole like unit gets moved. It's not like 40k where it's a small kind of squad engagement going on with all the units are independent to a point. Obviously, they're still in squads, like, but they're not like a massive tray of like 50 skeletons moving up the board or whatever. I still do think it would work okay for 40k as well, because obviously, you know, it would work for 40k. But I would prefer, I think, a more Dawn of War approach for 40k than the Total War approach.
I was thinking about this earlier, and I'd really like to see another Dawn of War because I think that approach that's the best for 40k. Because I think with 40k, the emphasis is on squad based. It's a lot less about line battles and a lot more about, you know, flexibility and maneuverability with small squads. And I don't think I'd want to see a Total War Warhammer 40k game just because I'm not sure how some factions would work. However, I would absolutely love to see a Warhammer 30k Total War game because that would work back when the legions were legions, not chapters. When, you know, instead of it being a case of a Chaos Warband is attacking part of a Space Marine chapter, instead you've got like an orc horde facing off against the entirety of say the Dark Angels, for instance. You could easily pull that off in the Horus Heresy era. It would be perfect for that, absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of crossing my fingers because Games Workshop is starting to push the 30k stuff more. You know, we've got all these rumours about 30k kits coming out and Horus Heresy plastic kits appearing in the Games Workshop at some point during the year or so. I'd really like to see if this does well that they gave that side of things, because it would fit so perfectly well. And it got like the Total War treatment because, as you say, fantasy is perfect for it. And I have to admit...
Well, 40k...
I know...
You know, I thought 40k... You know, like 40k would work, but the problem is it only works in some examples. It works for Imperial Guard, it works for Orcs, but it's not really going to work for Space Marines because you know, the chapters are so small. Even the large chapters like the Ultramarines and God knows what, they're not all the Space Wolves. They're still not going to put like 20,000 troops down on a battlefield. It's like, no, they can't. They're not that big, you know. So while it does work, it kind of doesn't work in other sense. It's kind of like the MMO that they're making, the Eternal Crusade, where like how do you simulate orcs? You cannot have an orc fighting a space marine. The only orc that could possibly fight a fucking space marine is basically a war boss. If you really want to get down to it, some of the knobs maybe could fight a space marine, maybe a mech boy or something, or a weird boy maybe. But an orc boy is just going to get binned. He's just dead.
Yeah.
You know, he's got no chance. You know, so how do they fix that? Well, their approach is like, well, you can play the game for free as an orc and run around as some low-powered idiot who just gets butchered by everyone. I don't think that'll work, but whatever. Like, so there are problems with that. But I mean, I hope this fits really well, and I think it'll do okay. And I am looking forward to this. Right? Honestly, I'm not that interested in Total War games. I was interested in Total War Rome 2. Which was a disaster at launch, so totally put me off. Even to the point of they have sent me codes for Attila and God knows what, and I haven't even bothered. Like, I don't care. Like, it just doesn't interest me. Attila does not interest me. I don't care about any of that stuff. So, you know, why? But Warhammer, fantasy, you know, me and you played Age of Reckoning, the MMO, which I thought was kind of okay. You know, I could get into that. You know, even though we both openly admit we are more into 40k, which I think, and I mean no disrespect to people who do enjoy fantasy, is quite a bit larger than fantasy is. 40k.
Oh yeah, it's by far the more popular thing. But then again, it's also in a way it's also the simpler of the two games. There's a lot more complexity to Warhammer from what I've read.
It's kind of bleeds over, doesn't it? With the whole psychic phase has bleeded over into 40k, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I'm glad though in one respect that they have chosen to do Warhammer. I don't know whether this is because Games Workshop have told them to, or there's something with the 40k license. It's very complicated when it gets down to their IP. But if on the table they had 40k and they had fantasy, any idiot would go, well, let's do 40k because that's going to give us the best return. Fantasy is not that good for return when you compare them both. But in the terms of what game they can offer, that Creative Assembly can make, it makes massive sense that it's actually fantasy by far. So I am, you know, well, I'll just, before we come off this, I'll just show you some of the armies which have not been listed. So basically all the elves, so the Dark, the High Elves, the Wood Elves, they haven't been announced. The Lizardmen, the Skaven, none of them have been announced. So I don't know whether this is too much of an issue for me. It would be if I was a Skaven player. I'd be, where the fuck are my rats? You know what I mean? I would be angry. Yeah. But it's going to be DLC. It's like odds on it's going to be DLC. And I do have a tweet somewhere. Which
they've also tweeted. They've said,
lost.
What is more, this title will go combined with two further standalone installments and additional content packs to create the largest Total War experience ever, an epic trilogy of titles that will redefine fantasy strategy gaming. This is the dawn of a new era. Total War Warhammer brings to life a world of legendary heroes, towering monsters, flying creatures, storms of magical power, and regiments of nightmarish warriors. Yeah. So it's going to be a trilogy, effectively. Two standalone expansions. Yeah. There's going to be, this. I'm sure we will see the other factions turn up in some capacity or another. I doubt they'll leave them out.
Do you think it's kind of weird that Games Workshop have allowed a game to be made which is so close to what the tabletop actually is?
The thing that's confusing me with this is Games Workshop have been, what's a polite way to put it, severely screwing up in every possible respect when it comes to video games. I think that's probably the politest way to put it. For quite some time now, the Space Marine license has been lost to the void somehow. No one knows where that's gone, and that was planned to be a trilogy. It was one of the most successful computer games they've made, or released licensed. So why haven't they dug that out or attempted to reclaim that? The Dawn of War series was pretty much acclaimed by everybody, and yet that's dead in the water. That IP's completely gone missing, and no one knows where it is. All we know is that Relic has gone to Sega, but we don't know whether they took the license with them, or indeed if they've been given permission to create another game anyway. We've had countless mobile efforts.
Well, I mean, Sega are Creative Assembly, so at least they've got the fantasy one. We know that.
And we've had just really strange decisions. Again, it's going to sound like we're hating on Regicide. I'm not particularly hating on Regicide. I just don't understand where the concept of the game came from. I know Regicide is in the lore. It's mentioned in the Horus Heresy times. Yeah. That's fine. But you're not just trying to sell to people who like Warhammer with video games. You're not. You're trying to sell to a greater market than that. So introducing Regicide as some sort of thing that, your standard video games you get excited about is not going to work, because without knowledge of the lore, without knowing what is going on, people will just see something that looks like chess, but it's got Warhammer models. Why? And that's going to be the sum total of their experience. The fact that we've now got Total War Warhammer, the fact that we're
without a doubt the biggest budget game since well, Space Marine, really, isn't it?
Absolutely. The fact we're getting Vermintide as well, they kind of Left 4 Dead type game,
yes,
the heroes of the Empire trying to escape from
FPS.
massive.
What's the FPS?
It's I can't remember the FPS is now. Yeah, that's it. Space Hulk Ascension.
Yeah, which I keep getting confused with the fucking other Space Hulk game.
Yeah. So we've got Total War Warhammer. We've got Vermintide, which actually looks pretty decent. I mean, yeah, it's a 4-player survival. It's basically Left 4 Dead, but with Skaven and humans, which I'm fine with as long as it's enjoyable. We've got as you say, we've got Space Hulk Ascension. I'm kind of hoping that this is the start of Games Workshop pulling their finger out their arse, essentially, because also we're seeing the older
and the MMO as well, if that turns out to be anything else.
Well, I'm reserving judgment on that.
Yeah, same.
It seems a bit dodgy.
Same here.
Also, we've got things like Mordheim. I mean, Mordheim was a specialist game that has suddenly appeared. That is now, I mean, that's actually a decent game. It's in early access, but the way they're producing it is fantastic. We've got the upcoming Battlefleet Gothic. Again,
I forgot about that.
Interactive. They're doing both of those, Mordheim and Battlefleet Gothic. I wouldn't be at all surprised if we saw Necromunda at some point.
Which kind of
that is basically more.
No disrespect to them, but do you think that again that kind of is a product of let's just go with the cheaper option? Because I do seem to get that feel from Games Workshop quite a lot, where it's like, let's get a game made as cheap as possible because we're all about the money. Even though if we actually made a good frigging game, it would make loads of money. And we've done that in the past. So why can't we do it again?
Yeah, that's the thing that confuses me. It's like they seem to go for the lowest bidder, but at the same time, you have got places like Focus where Mordheim. I don't know if they went for.
Well, we don't know the story behind it, no. But I'm just saying, Focus are not exactly a massive company, are they?
No, they're not. They're not a
smaller publisher.
They're not a huge publisher, and in a way,
I compare them to Paradox. They're kind of like Paradox.
Yeah. I think so. It's probably on a similar level, but it's like, in a way, they've looked out because Mordheim is actually really good and it's doing well. I'd hope that Battlefleet Gothic does as well, but I'm kind of hoping that this is where we start to see Games Workshop maybe be a bit. I want to say braver, because I think at the moment the only reason they're giving out their IP to like any small publisher and studio is because it's easy to ignore mistakes from a small publisher and studio. It's easy to overlook a bad game when it's like, well, this was their first game. And I don't understand why Games Workshop has taken that approach with an IP that it protects so viciously that it's gone after people for using the word space and marine together. It baffles me that they'd try and protect it, that keep it that close to their chest, and yet they're willing to just seemingly hand it out to anyone who asks for it.
It's that broadcast mentality which is really weird to me, because the products they sell, they are expensive, they are overpriced, but they're like high quality individual products. You know what I mean? It's like they obviously understand making a high quality model will actually translate to sales. The price they charge for it is a bit ridiculous. So why isn't that mentality put across the games? Instead, like Kiri said, hopefully we're coming out of this phase of where they're just giving their IP to every mobile developer under the sun and just throwing out mobile game after mobile game after mobile game. Now, we don't know what the revenue is off these games. We know that mobile free-to-play games generally do make quite a bit of cash off the old whales who spend a ton of money on the game. I mean, you had the Warhammer game, which was a clone of Clash of Clans, which, to be fair, was a pretty good clone of Clash of Clans, and I did play it for a little bit. But they are very grindy and pretty boring. You know, in fact, that was Horus Heresy, the Drop Pod Assault, I think it was called, or something like that.
Yeah, that was it.
The visuals were quite good in that. It had it made sense with the legions that were involved. It was on Istvan. Kiri bailed me out. One of the Istvan planets that was.
Oh, was it Istvan 5 or
5? Something. It's the one where all the traitors get sent down and bombed to shit.
Oh, I think that's Istvan 4.
Yeah, because you play as like you can play as the. Well, they're not traitors, are they? The people who don't agree with Horus get bombed to shit, who are in fact not the traitors. You can be the Horus crew, or you can be the loyalists. That was it. Traitors are the loyalists. It wasn't too bad, but yeah, hopefully we're coming out of that. And this, I'm going to be following this, and it is literally the most interested I'm going to be in a Total War game. Right? I was interested in Rome 2, but not like this. You know, this is Warhammer. This could be great.
Yeah.
So let's see what happens.
I'm kind of. I mean, like you. I was a bit burned by Rome 2 to the point where Attila was
I
like.
think most people were burnt by that to just burn into oblivion.
By the look of it, the way they've handled Attila since then, and well, from what like we've talked to Lionheart about this. In fact, on HOTFIX,
Yeah.
It seems like they've got the right idea for mending that, like that distrust between them and the fans. So I'm kind of hoping that they've learned from all of that. So when it comes to Total War Warhammer, it will be. I'm not going to say it's a flawless launch because I don't think those exist anymore, but it will be, you know, as good and smooth enough that people who aren't that familiar might pick it up and immediately be taken in. Because I think really, in a way, it's almost I wouldn't usually say something like this, but I almost feel like someone needs to prove to Games Workshop that actually, big funded games are what people want. I wouldn't normally like advocate just blindly buying stuff, and in fact, that's not what I'm doing now. But I feel like if more people were more supportive of big titles using the IP, they might notice that actually give it to a studio who knows what they're doing.
Well,
take
replace
a
big with quality. That makes more sense. If it's a quality title, it doesn't have to be a massive big budget game. If it's quality, I mean, even hell, you said that with Mordheim. That's not a massive budget game, but it's still pretty good. So there is, but I think, like, at the end of the day, it just comes back to how much money they make. And if their board members are sitting down and going, well, we're making loads of money off mobile games, they carried on with it. But it's good to see that they're actually doing a bigger budget game, a more traditional game, an actual fucking game instead of some shit mobile crap.
Yeah,
and hopefully it does okay. If it bombs, but like you said, Mr. Kirioff, like I'm about to say what I just told you not to say. If it bombs, they probably won't bother for a long time again. So I kind of don't want it to bomb. But if it's crap, it needs to bomb. That's the thing. What I wanted to say, one last thing about these guys as well, is on Creative Assembly, Attila. It's kind of like, to me, it seems like a little expansion to Rome, but it seems like they're fixing a lot of the stuff. Maybe it's also a testing ground for what they're going to throw into Warhammer, because you don't want a bad launch with that. That is, I think, going to be their biggest launch ever, probably, without a doubt, because it's Total War is a big brand, but Warhammer. Can you imagine? I mean, if they did like Total War Game of Thrones or something like that, or Total War Lord of the Rings or something, it would just be like massive for them. So maybe they will do something like that in the future, but this is kind of the first step on that IP ladder of massiveness, and maybe.
The fact that they've said that this is going to be the largest Total War experience kind of suggests to me that this is going to be the thing that kind of launches it onto an entirely new platform, like makes it bigger than it's ever been before. Because this is pretty much, this is the way to do stuff like that. You take an existing popular title, something that everyone knows, and put it together with the game that you've been known for making, and if it launches well, and if you've done a good job, it could push them way higher than they are now. Which, I mean, that would be really good, but they've got to get it right, and I'm just really hoping they do.
Well, they really did it with Alien Isolation to some degree. Obviously, it's not a Total War game, but they did take the Alien brand and make it fairly profitable, regardless of what I thought of the game. Anyway, the next topic we've got, ladies and gentlemen, is Steam. Now, Steam has introduced a basically you have to spend $5 on your account before you can use any of the social features, essentially. But there are some pretty interesting things which are brought up by this Rock Paper Shotgun article. So, you know what? I'll just read this off pretty quick. So, in their ongoing attempts to crack down on scammers and spammers using throwaway accounts on Steam, Valve have further tightened the restrictions on who can and can't message folks. For years, new Steam accounts have been unable to add friends, open group chat, vote on Greenlight, Steam Workshop, write reviews, leave comments, and whatnot until they owned a game. Okay. It seems that wasn't enough though, because now Steam are limiting all of that until the owner spends $5. And as the what is the guy's name that's giving Alice? It's actually a woman. As Alice says, and why should I care? You may ask, rolling your eyes as if you think it won't hit you. Well, on one hand, huzzah! Hopefully, we'll have fewer spammers around Steam. On the other hand, it's a bit of a bummer for folks who live cheaply on Steam and want to play free-to-play games, which made me think, because I would not have thought that, because that's not who I am. But I bet there are loads of people who play free-to-play games through Steam and talk to their friends, and now they won't be able to unless they give Steam $5, which is a bit ridiculous. So this is their actual statement, okay? So this is what Valve say, or Valve explain. Malicious users often operate in the community on accounts which have not spent any money. reducing the individual risk of performing the actions they do. One of the best pieces of information we can compare between regular users and malicious users is their spending habits, as typically the accounts being used have no investment in their longevity. Due to this being a common scenario, we have decided to restrict certain community features until an account has met or exceeded $5 in Steam. So just to clarify what that means, it means you put $5 in your Steam wallet or you buy a game worth $5. It does not mean you go out and, let's go back to faces because I'm getting all... It does not mean that you go out and buy the Humble Bundle for as cheap as possible and then load all the keys into Steam because their combined value is actually much higher on Steam. No, you have to buy the game through Steam. That doesn't count. So this obviously is a lot of problems with gifting people games, you know, and stuff like that. So what do you think about this, Mr. Kirioff? As a Steam gamer like you are right now, be honest.
To be honest, it just reeks of Steam trying to find a lazy solution to a problem again. It just does. It really does. I mean, I can kind of see where they're coming from. Yeah, people who are trying to use it to scam and to be, you know, malicious users. On the one hand, yes, that is one way to fix it. But on the other hand, it's just like all the other ways of fixing the problems they've got. It just punishes people who aren't even involved in that anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, what about those people who want to, you know, play free-to-play games? What about the guy who gets, you know, his mate buys him a game on Steam, he hasn't got Steam yet. Oh, well, yeah, let's play this game together on Steam now you've bought it for me. Oh, he's accepted the key, but it doesn't count anymore. He's got to spend $5. And he's got to spend $5 because someone he doesn't know is trying to scam someone else he doesn't know out of something he has no experience of. It's exactly the same as always. All Steam does when they have an issue is they either raise something, like they produce another barrier of entry, or they drop it on the community. That's all they do. It's happened with like, well, look at Greenlight. You know, indie devs were complaining that it was really difficult to get on Steam. So what did Steam do? They said, oh, the community can decide. And I mean, what's the result of that? Well, you've seen on our channel enough where there's endless like crap games.
Hello,
being produced.
Yogscast.
There's stuff like that Bloodbath, whatever it's called.
Yep.
The Hotline Miami bootleg, which it is. It's just a direct copy of Miami Hotline. That was on Greenlight, and that got voted on, and now it's for sale.
And like me on Yogscast, there, you know, they get games. Well, they had their Yog Ventures greenlit. I think they've had other games greenlit simply because they can game the system, which is not how it should work. You know. Exactly.
It's once again, it's just a lazy solution to a problem that they should be able to fix without punishing people who are doing nothing wrong.
This is an extreme example. It's kind of like, take an infection, the cold, right? People have got the cold, Mr. Kirioff. You've got the cold. I haven't got the cold. And McGee's not got the cold. But I met you yesterday, so now I need to die in an incinerator along with you because we can't let the disease carry on. So we all get incinerated together. It's a crazy extreme example, but it is essentially what they're doing because they're like, there will be more legitimate users on Steam who have just signed up, been given a game by their friend, or put a game in they've got from the Humble Bundle, or whatever, than there will be spammers, right? There will be... These people will... I mean, like it says, in the past, all you had to do was own a game. And once you owned a game, you had access to all the Steam features. So you could vote on Greenlight, you could talk to your friends, set up groups, you know, use all the multiplayer stuff, you know, join friends in games, stuff like that, which, let's face it, is what Steam's used for. This is why people use Steam, because of all that integration. To then just say that's no longer a case... So you can't just load up the game, load up Steam, sorry, and say, click on play Star Trek Online, for example, because it's free. You now own the game. So, okay, you can use all the features. That's great. You have to actually give them $5 for the privilege of that. So it's now become a place where these gamers, which obviously we are not because we have a load of games in our Steam account, so it doesn't really affect us that way. It doesn't affect us at all, really. But those people who do use Steam for their free-to-play games are now kicked in the bollocks, especially if they use it to, you know, communicate with their friends, because they can't do that anymore. And it's just, like you said, it's just such a shit fix. Cheap fix. It's like, well, a cheap fix that'll make them money. That's the stupid thing about it.
Well, the worst thing is as well, it's not going to work. No. I'm sorry, but if you're a dedicated scammer and your entire method of operation is going around and getting people to give you their Steam accounts or to give you rare items out of their inventories or whatever, if you can steal a Steam account that's got $200 worth of games on, then you are going to pay $5 to be able to scam someone out of $195, you know, if you take the $5 loss into account. How is that going to stop anyone who is doing that as a way to make money. It's
Hell,
not going to stop.
It happened
them.
on Twitch. It happened on Twitch. Scammers were subscribing to channels so they could post links in the chat. That's $5.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's just a, and also I believe you can use PayPal now on Steam anyway. So what exactly what exactly prevents your standard scammer, who I assume knows how to do these things, from, I don't know, buying a game for $5 off Steam, doing his bit of scamming over the next 2 days, he gets what he wants, he sells on the account he scammed, then he goes into PayPal and he files a dispute and he gets the money back. And Steam has managed to prevent him from, oh no wait, they haven't prevented him from doing anything, because it's such an easy way to get round it that it has affected no one that they're aiming it at. And this is something that gets on my nerves, especially, and this is a little bit of a tangent because this is actually aimed at rock, paper, shotgun, when people say things like, it's worth noting when someone kicks spammers and scammers square in the teeth. This isn't a kick in the teeth. It's not even remotely a kick in the teeth for spammers and scammers. It's a nothing. It's a $5 entry fee for them to carry on doing exactly what they were doing, which they wouldn't do unless they were successful at it. That's the point. They're not like constantly creating new accounts or making new accounts when they're banned because they find it funny. They're doing it because they get a genuine like reward for it, which is the ability to scam people out of items or games or their actual Steam accounts themselves. That's why they're doing it. And a $5 barrier of entry is literally nothing.
You know, and it doesn't take a brain surgeon to work this out. I mean, I was just scrolling through the comments as you were saying that, and exactly, there's the thing I was looking for. So some guys, like, this is great news for the CSGO community, who are plagued by hackers and smurfs who buy up accounts, blah, 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 blah. And then some guy just responds, well, if they're already willing to buy multiple copies of CSGO to smurf and hack, I doubt $5 is really going to cause them a problem.
Yeah.
Which is totally right. You know, it's just totally right. It's just a stupid. It's just stupid.
You know, they could find some other system of doing it. They could use the amount of money they generate on a daily basis to, I don't know, improve customer support, do some sort of quality assurance, actually vet the games that appear on this system, and maybe even, you know, do something that prevents scammers from ripping people off constantly. But once again, it's Steam, it's Valve. So what do? They find a solution that is as cheap as possible, that means as little as interaction from them as possible, and then they say, look, we fixed it, whilst the system continues to collapse around them, because that's exactly what they've done in literally every single instance. It really is. I mean,
you know, I think you can actually get in the UK, because of our consumer protection laws, I'm pretty sure you can just get your money back off Steam anyway. So you don't even have to bother with the PayPal thing. You can just say, I want my money back, and they'll give you your money back. They'll refund you, because I'm sure it's part of your statutory rights or something. I forget what the rule is, but you can do that. You know, you can entirely do that. So why don't you just VPN yourself to the UK? If that's how Steam checks your location. Obviously, that would be stupid for the spammers, because stuff maybe would cost more if they were. But no, why would they be buying games through Steam? Who knows? But there is, like I said, there's a lot of ways around it. And if we're idiots and we're not spammers and we can think of a couple of ways, then I think it's a shit system and it's stupid. However, Mr. Kirioff, talking about stupidity, I'm going to give this to you, bloke. I'm going to give you the World of Warcraft thing, which is just
Oh God, I hate this.
Right, I've got the Reddit post open. Have you got that up? Because I want you to go into this, bloke. This is quite bad. Fire away, Mr. Kirioff.
Damn. Okay, so guy from Blizzard, he has said on Twitter that a ship called Tyrann's Silence is not a Hush Tyrant reference, but they can see why it would be taken that way, so they're going to change the name of the ship in the game. So essentially, there's a ship in the game, and it's at the moment called Tyrann's Silence. That's fine, I hear you say. That what is the problem? I don't understand why this is an issue. And apparently people are upset because they think it's a reference to a cutscene, of all things, where this happens. So, I'm going to read this out to you. So, Tyrand Whisperwind says, Malfurion. Malfurion Stormrage says, Hush, Tyrand, where is Illidan? Tyrand Whisperwind says, by the very edge. Now, people think that the name of the ship, Tyrann's Silence, is directly referencing Malfurion telling her to hush. And that is apparently offensive. And so they're changing the ship's name in the game because that's offensive. I don't even know where to start with this, because I've never heard anything quite as like outlandish as that. Like, I think this may be the most extreme case of being offended at nothing on the internet I think I've literally ever come across. And there's some pretty mental examples when you look around. But
you know,
this is just
I
unbelievable.
I avoid this shit because I don't get why people spend their lives on Tumblr. I'm not saying these people have, but you'll get my point in a minute. Spend their lives looking at like shit, moan about triggers and all of this crap. Is this a trigger, Mr. Kirioff? Oh no, I've read the name of this ship. It implies somebody has been told to be quiet. Oh my god, this is just triggering me all day of the week because now, oh, I can't handle it. I think some people need to be, this might be harsh, but slapped into the real, into reality, because this is nothing, right? This is absolutely nothing.
It's less than nothing.
It's so much less than nothing that if you've got a micron electroscope thing out, I don't know, I'm sure that's what it's called. the electron microscope, there we go. And zoomed in so much, you would find nothing. There would be nothing. But like, it's. I wanted to touch on this on HOTFIX because we always avoid this shit. Like, we avoided Gamergate and all that shit. Well, Gamersgate. Gamergate's the website. Remember when they sent the PR email? They were like, "We're not affiliated with Gamersgate, so."
No, Gamersgate is the website.
See, this is how much I know about it because I don't give a fuck. To be honest, I don't care. Like, this shit though, it's the same sort of shit to me, and I just don't care. I'm just like, who would sit there and be like, I'm offended? I mean, who's the thing is, what are the replies to this guy on Twitter? I'm gonna have a look.
Someone actually posted an explanation, which is apparently that the character of Tyrande,
right? Okay,
in their view, it's in the Reddit thread, and it's. I'll read out briefly. I'll read you the too long didn't read. So,
I see it. I know, I see it. Yeah, I see it. I've got it. Yeah.
Some law nuts don't like that Tyrande has been reduced to basically being an accessory for Malfurion or other characters that should remain silent, lest she actually gets some character development of her own. To particularly big fans of the character or Night Elves in general, her treatment just comes across as offensive to them because it seems like Blizzard treats her like a prop. This, along with some questionable handling of other female characters, is why dumb things like this sets off big whole reactions within the WoW fandom.
You know what this is the same? This is like, bloke, me getting offended and writing a massive fucking blog post somewhere about all the male characters in that game look like they're fucking ripped and have been involved in some sort of fucking intense circuit training thing. I don't look like that. I'm tempted to get my belly out. I'm offended by this. So much so, I'm going to go on a massive tirade. In fact, that's even more to be offended. There's something to be offended about there. What the fuck? This is literally... I'm just rocking my chair.
A fictional character in a fictional world during a cutscene was told by another fictional character to essentially get to the point. That was the whole conversation. And now Blizzard are actually... This is the worst thing about this. Not only is this like the worst thing I've ever heard of to be offended by. If you're offended by this, then you need to step outside your front door or something. Go outside. I don't care what you do. Just go outside. But Blizzard are actually saying, okay, well,
this
we'll
is the
change
worst.
it then.
Why though? I don't get this. Like,
they're changing it.
Why are they? I'm sure he says something. Yeah, here we go. So he says, CM Law, he says, offending people for no reason is not a gun we'd like to stick to, sorry, right? This is a response to some guy saying, stick to your guns for once, right? What? Where's the offence? Like, why don't they just go? It's just the name of a ship. It's not a reference to anything. And just because that character has very minimal character development and doesn't really have much in the way of anything to say, it was told to shut up because it was just used as like a device in a conversation between two other characters. Like, you know, oh, be quiet, I want to get to the point. Does not mean that it's now some sort of thing which
It's such a pathetic thing.
It's so pathetic.
The thing that gets me is this guy who says, stick to your guns for once, and it's offending people for no reason, is not a gun we'd like to stick to. Sorry. Yeah, what? I'm offended that you want to change that ship's name. Does that mean you're going to keep it how it is? Where exactly does this stop? Like, genuinely, honestly, where does this stop?
This would just go forever and a day, couldn't it?
Once, if someone says one thing on their forum about one ability or one ship name or one like name of NPC, oh, there's a guy in Stormwell called Roger. My uncle was called Roger and he died, so therefore that's offensive. Are they going to change his name?
I don't like the icon of that rogue ability with the knife in the eye because my granddad had laser eye surgery that went wrong and now he's blind and this affects me so much. when they were when they were peeling back. No, he had cataract surgery and they were slicing his eye, and then he died. And I'm not happy about this.
Like,
so I'm sending a message.
I don't understand where it's going to stop. Are they just going to change everything that anyone complains about? And even can you get away with like just I'm not sure I like the name of that ability, and it's oh shit, someone didn't like it. Someone didn't like the name of that ability. Quick, change it now. Code red. What is going on? Like,
apparently this character.
Happening?
This Tyrant character, has an ability in Heroes of the Storm where it silences people, which is just
that's what it is. It's just a reference to that ability in Heroes of the Storm. But apparently, because it could be seen as a reference to Hush Tyrant, that's offensive.
So hang on, this is a reference considering to be a reference to another reference, which could be considered offensive if you're a fucking idiot. On to the next topic. We go into these talking about fucking idiots, right?
God,
Jesus Christ. I think we'll end on this. We do have, well, in fact, I'll just quickly jump on some other topics we had loaded up. So, WWE, which is always WWF to me, not the worldwide fucking Federation of Animals or whatever that was. What did it stand for? Whatever, but WWE as it's now.
It was World Wrestling Federation and World Wildlife
Federation. Yeah.
But then they had to change it because apparently, what I heard when it happened, and this was back in high school, that's how long ago this happened, was that they had to change it because World Wrestling Federation implied that there was actually some form of competition going on.
Oh, yeah.
And so they had to change it to entertainment because it's
not
real.
I hate to break your illusions, ladies and gentlemen. Go and watch MMA, fucking UFC, if you want to see somebody get battered.
That's real. That's quality.
Yeah, so this will be the first to release on PC, 2K15, which is kind of interesting because this has always been a console game.
I don't understand why though. I've always viewed like the WWE games. Like I played them when I was younger. You know, I had them on the PlayStation.
I remember throwing them out the ring and getting the table and the chair and smashing people on the back.
Yeah, but it's like it's hardly something I think that people have been sitting there going, oh well, you know, we need this. It's about time. Like it's only been 10 years and it's still not on PC. I don't get it. It's just such a weird random decision to do it. And I want to know
why is Hogan still in it? Isn't he like 60 or something now? 70?
He's not dead.
Well, I don't know.
Or is he still?
Maybe it's some sort of like. Maybe it's like a legend character or something. I don't friggin' know. He's probably had that many steroids that he probably is dead. I don't even know, but I don't follow wrestling. I don't care.
We'll try and get a copy. And,
it could be quite funny to play though. That's the thing.
Yeah.
The other thing as well was something to do with games getting cancelled on Kickstarter, which is Rome. But we're not gonna. Well, if you want to quickly touch on it, Kiri, go for it. But I don't understand. It's very long.
It's essentially just another thing of be careful what you give money to on Kickstarter because this is yet another game where it was a first-time developer. Two friends making a game, first-time developer. They wanted to make a zombie survival game because so does everyone. And after a few years of being in development, it's dead in the water. It's not coming back. They stopped being friends and sued each other over it. We've seen it time and time again with Kickstarter. You've got to be careful. You've got to be really careful what you back. Make sure you know that you're getting in what you're getting into effectively because it raised $103,000 and now it's all gone. And you're never going to see anything from it again. So it's just your usual cautionary tale that things go bad on Kickstarter every now and again.
Kickstarter is not the indie goldmine people think gaming. It to be.
Yeah.
Hello, Tim Schafer. Oh wait, you can't hear me because you blocked me on Twitter. This I've got so many tabs open. This is the last thing I want to end on. So this is we seem to be focusing a lot on Reddit posts today, but this is like it's not so much news, but it's just problems people have been having with Daybreak Games, which of course were Sony Online Entertainment. Now, I got problems with these people. So there's a ton of stuff, right? Talking about problems that PlanetSide 2's got, problems H1Z1's got, and obviously I know about problems that game's got. Right?
The main problem with H1Z1 is it's fucking shit. That's the main problem.
Yeah. But there's a thing that somebody actually spoke about, which I think might be in the top. It's about here it is. Okay,
yeah,
I have
this. I know what this is.
Yeah, I have this. So from Audie Murphy 135. I'm gonna read what he says because this is quite bad, right? Especially this is like extremely indicative of what they do, right? Because they just want to make money whenever they can. This is like their total fucking remit seems to be this, which it's a business, yeah, I get it. But they don't give a shit about the game, and they hammer the shit out of the player base that is loyal to them and has spent money on them, and they don't give a fuck, right? Now that is some harsh words coming from me, because I fucking loved EverQuest and EverQuest 2. Right, EverQuest 2 was an SOE production straight, like, just completely. I played that for years and years and years, alright? Went to shit in the end because it's a SOE product. Like, there's loads of people out there from Star Wars Galaxies who no doubt remember the fucking disaster show that turned out to be. Anyway, this is what this chap says. The most recent bad change was the flight model changes in PlanetSide 2, which ended up breaking many other things as well. Players gave plenty of constructive feedback about the changes before it even went live from testing on the public test server. DBG, which I think must be Daybreak Games, even emailed some of the top pilots and their outfits for feedback. Daybreak Games completely ignored this. After the update, there were so many physics-related bugs, turrets always pointing in the straight down direction, light assaults not controlling properly, they're the guys with the jetpacks, lock-ons not working properly. Then the players realised that actually they've changed the entire physics model so it works better on controllers because they're working on the PS4 version, which is currently in beta. Now, that, and there's a ton of other examples in this thread of like all the other mental changes they've made to games that they've had under their control. That this is exactly what they do, right? PlanetSide 2, when that was announced, when I bought Alpha Squad Access to that, cost me 40 quid, I think it did, 39 quid. The dream, the vision they were selling was it was great, right? A massive team was working on it. It looked fantastic for the time.
Yeah.
It kind of still looks okay now. It's got very good lighting engine, but texture's a bit shit and all the rest of that stuff. The weapon play was fine. The way the aircraft worked was okay for me. They were more hovercraft, like not really interceptor jets kind of thing, but like almost like vertical takeoff and lift, like helicopters, I guess. That's a poor description, but you know, it was okay. You could see the way it was going. You could see some of the monetization things they brought in. Sony were big on, well, SOE, it's not Sony, it's SOE. They would be like, oh yeah, we're going to bring monetization in, but it won't unbalance the game. You know, it'll be cheap. We won't sell weapons that are overpowered. But then what did they do? Well, they slowly started to sell weapons that were questionable, right? The implant system, I remember this coming in, where you could buy implants which were basically boosts. They would boost some aspect of your character. You had to pay for them and put them in. Some of them you kind of needed to be competitive. That's bad. And they started going down this path. They started to shed a lot of the original team that were in charge of PlanetSide 2, probably because it wasn't making enough money, because it had a ton of problems. It had performance problems. It had all kinds of stuff. But while this is all happening, instead of fixing those problems, they continue to pile on the shit free-to-play, like, nickel and diamond crap that they're obsessed with. The hell, they even charge you to not show a model of a helmet on your character. Excuse me, that is just removing the helmet to off on. I mean, what, you know, that's mad. That is, to me, that is taking the piss. When if you've got a team, okay, I get you've got a team working on monetization, and you've got a team working on the game, but when you slash the team working on the game into oblivion, but you carry on pumping out the monetization stuff, it looks really bad. Then you work on your PS4 version, which nobody is going to play. I hate to break this to you, nobody will play this on the PS4. Okay,
that baffles me. Right, that's like how long have the new gen consoles been out?
2 years.
I'm not. Yeah, it's not like they've only just arrived. You know it, and the game itself.
Well, it's getting up 2 years. Yeah,
PlanetSide itself is well, that's been around for quite some time as well. So you're combining consoles that have been out for a couple of years with a game that's been out for even longer. That isn't. I mean, it's not a bad game, but I'm not going to sit here and say that it's one of the most popular games ever made. That would be a lie. So why would you combine an incredibly late release on the new gen consoles when no one's going to touch it? No one's going to be interested in this. There are other things that people are going to want to try.
Console gamers play Call of Duty, basically, and then the rest of them play Battlefield. They're not going to play this. Like, no. I mean, it's free to play, so they may get it and whatever, check it out. But I don't think it's going to be sustainable. But then this is another issue I've got with Daybreak, and well, another issue is I don't really like John Smedley as well. Like, the more I see what that person says, like the way he would turn up on Reddit and make comments like, "Oh, we're going to change, we're going to do that." H1Z1 is a very good example. launch, I got this game on launch, right? You had to pay for access. They gave us access, right? So I didn't pay for access, but everybody else had to pay. Part of that access package, you got some tickets, vouchers, which would give you airdrops in the game. When I called the airdrop in, there was a weapon in it. Now, in a survival game, to be able to buy a weapon is pay to win. I don't care what you say. Even if it's a shit weapon, not as good as an assault rifle or whatever, it's still better than a fucking club, and you've just paid for it and you've got it delivered to your door. That's how the game launched. After they said it would not launch like that, right? After that, and I'm pretty sure my video did get a lot of, well, I know it got a lot of traction. It's hundreds of thousands of views on that video. Things started to change. But it was very cynical, as if it was their plan all along, you know, to really have high drop rates of weapons and ammo and good stuff in crates that you buy. Because that makes you buy them, doesn't it? It makes you think, there's value in this, I will buy this, okay? You're not going to buy something which is a 1 in 10 chance of something. I mean, for a start, that's gambling as well. Like, oh, I don't know what this might be, I'm just going to gamble away some money on it. It could be anything, okay? Which is slightly dodgy as well. But they toned it down a little bit, right? But then they started working on other things. So the Battle Royale, you have to pay to get access to the Battle Royale, which the guy who made the Battle Royale mod for Armor, they hired him and he essentially implemented it into their game or gave them direction for it. But you have to pay for access into this. But that's not the big problem with H1Z1. I'm not that clued up on its free-to-play policy and its monetization policy apart from the voucher system they've got going. There's obviously other things you can buy as well. Odds on there is. But they charge for access to that game, and it is riddled, absolutely riddled with hackers. Why are they not fixing this? Right? They don't seem to care. You know, it's like, it doesn't really matter because we can continue to sell the game, right? It's a popular game on Twitch because it's, you know, people like to see people fighting against adversity. It's like, oh, will you survive? It's almost exclusively the Battle Royale mode that people play. And I think they have made a considerable amount. I probably think they've made more money than they've made off Planet Side 2 since that game launched. Considerably more. It's zombie survival, right? They know it's a zombie game. It's going to make money, right? They know people wanted a DayZ that actually worked, and all they've done is clone it with loads of shitty free-to-play crap in it, right? That's all they've done, right? Then you look at what else Daybreak have done, bloke. What have they done? They've removed a ton of the team from EverQuest Next. They got rid of Dave... is it Gregory? I forget his name. Gorson or something. Shit, it's the guy with the ponytail. He was like the lead. They just got rid of him. Like, where is EverQuest Next Landmark now?
Well, that game is dead.
Where's it? Well, that game's dead, yeah. Well,
EverQuest Next is dead in the water now.
That's dead as well. Because they've realised they haven't got to make anything like that now. You just make these poxy games where they cash in on the early access phase and they cash in large. They cashed in off me on Planet Side 2 in its early access phase, yeah. I bought their alpha fucking pack for 40 quid and I enjoyed the game. I'll openly say I had some great moments in that game when we were in a massive, like, fucking platoon. But it was still shit. Like, it was still pissy and crap. And then the way they've taken it is offensive, to be honest. Look at H1Z1. You have to buy for access into that. By the time it gets to its free-to-play stage, it's probably going to be, well, like you said, dead in the water and fucking no good. They've already made their money off it. They don't care. That's the vibe I get off this company, and it fucking annoys me.
I've been delivered a treat. A treat. What a dog is not meant to have, ladies and gentlemen. Dog, let go. Let go of the dog. Let go. Get off it. What is this?
Is that a stick?
That's a stick out of the garden.
That's a quality stick, bro.
To my feet.
Maybe it's
obviously a very, very fine example of garden stick. I'm gonna throw that in the bin.
Yeah,
but yeah, that's.
Oh yeah, I haven't got McGee cam on because McGee. Well, she ain't here. So there we go.
She's off on adventures. But this is the thing. I agree with you. I don't like John Smedley at all. I really can't stand the way he approaches people. And God forbid you ever follow him on Twitter. It'll drive you mental. The way that they seem to be approaching things is actually very reminiscent of High Res. Like, this is something that they're starting to remind me very much of High Res. Remember what happened with Tribes Ascend?
You mean old High Res? Because new High Res
old High Res
different. Because
yeah.
Smite is
old
different.
Old High Res, where Tribes Ascend received a load of work, load of updates, and then support stopped. It just stopped. The official forums got shut down. You were directed to the subreddit, and just the game died. The game died a death because it had earned what it was going to earn. They deemed it not successful enough to worth bothering with, and so it was left to die. That's basically what Daybreak Games are doing, if you ask me. Yeah, they're making a PlanetSide 2 PS4 version, but that's not going to succeed, and they're killing the PS version, the PC version, in an attempt to bring
Which
that.
I don't understand. Like, why are they even? Yeah, why are they even?
Because the PC market is going to be way bigger than the PS4 market for it anyway. It's not a game that PS4 people are going to play.
Why change the PC client anyway? Wouldn't you have a different build for the console? I mean,
maybe
why?
they just do all development on one build and just push it to both.
Because it's cheaper.
Yeah. So they're going to kill PlanetSide at this point. I'm pretty convinced.
I think it's dead. I think we can just say it's dead. I mean, it had so much promise. It could have been such an amazing game. That could have been. And I don't know what the playing figures are for it. There can't be much. Like now, I mean, nowhere near they were back at launch. But what annoys me the most is they seem to be a professional outfit of can I say theft? I mean, that's not really right because you still do get a product, but they are professionally abusing early access systems to make money. And they've done it with PlanetSide 2. They're doing it with H1Z1. What's next?
I mean, well, again, they've done it with EverQuest. They've ditched people from EverQuest. The game's nowhere near EverQuest Landmark. Is nowhere near.
Yeah, they have. Yeah,
any sort of.
And that had like really insane. You know what? That had like hundreds of dollars worth of access packs to that.
Yeah,
which again,
but where is it?
To be fair to them, well, actually, John Smedley emailed me a key to that. So for me to say I don't like the guy, it just shows you like I don't care what they're giving me. I don't care. Like at the end of the day, you have to be for the consumer, for the gaming population at large. And this is why I don't play any of their games really. You know, I'll see the odd comment come through on the video I made, or people will send me comments on Twitter, and it'll be, you need to play H1Z1 again because it's different now. You should play it. And I'm like, no, because I don't agree with what their company is doing now. I made videos where I was really looking forward to EverQuest Next, and I was like, in fact, it's a really popular video as well, where I said, could this be the first next-gen MMO? Like, they've got all this voxel-based destruction going with the abilities and stuff. Could it be? I'm not interested in that no more. I just flat out say I'm not interested in that game anymore. I'm not interested in any of the games.
Even if you were, it's dead in the water. I mean, when was the last time you saw news on any website about EverQuest Next Landmark? Anywhere. Any news whatsoever. There's been none. Since there was a layoff of staff, since they changed over to Daybreak Gaming, there has been nothing. What they're doing is they're taking money for people to play their game that is still in development.
Yeah.
And then when they decide that that game has outlived its usefulness, they move on. They're trying to do it with PlanetSide 2. The PC version has outlived its usefulness now, so they're trying to shift it to PS4.
And the way they try and defend themselves with this is to go on Reddit as the big CEO and as lead developers and make comments on games. And make comments to say, we're going to do this. So people, and I don't have the threads to show you now, but I do remember from the back of my mind, people on the H1Z1 thing would be like, wow, thanks for coming out and telling us. He doesn't care. He's just saying that to get you to go and be some fucking evangelist for the games. All they've realised is we can make half-assed products under the guise of early access. They will get better, but when there comes a point where we don't make enough money on it anymore, we'll just say, oh, well, things are changing, or we'll just say nothing and draw it into the ground. But we'll run the hype train on our next big game, which we're going to throw out the door.
And that's what they've done. That's what they did. Yeah. They rolled out the hype train for PlanetSide 2. Then they rolled out the hype train for EverQuest. Both of those games are now a Landmark. Both of those games are now effectively gone. They're not receiving anything worth talking about in terms of updates. Now they're doing it with H1Z1. When H1Z1 outlives its usefulness, they'll go to their next big project. And the worst thing is that people seem to treat John Smedley as some sort of trailblazer in how CEOs of big companies should interact with people. No, he's not. What he's doing is he's being very personable whilst he's lying to your face. That's what he's doing.
That's what I think he's doing as well.
He's not turning up and he's not saying, yeah, we're going to do this, this, and this because he has any intention of doing it. He's doing it because you are raising negative press. And when he turns up and he tells you that things are going to change and that he's so sorry and that don't worry, these issues will be sorted, he's doing that so that you will then go away and say, hey, John Smedley from Daybreak Games turned up and he said this, this, and this, which is really good. That takes away attention from the fact that the game itself is not in a good place. It's not in a good state. It's not being developed properly because that makes it about him and about Daybreak Games, not about the games they actually produce. And that's all they do. He especially is just a one-man hype train for the company, not the games, the company. Because every time something happens that people don't like, he shows up and he explains how things are going to be different, and then in a few months' time, nothing's different, but it's better because Smedley said they would be. That's not an acceptable thing to. Like, I'm not going to.
Yeah,
I don't support companies like that. Why would I? It's terrible.
I want to read off something from a guy. Now, this might not be accurate because it's from a guy from Reddit, but he claims to have got 1,300 hours in PlanetSide 2. Okay, I just want to read this off for the sake of it because it does align with my thoughts of the game, I guess. But I obviously take this with a pinch of salt. So he says, I've been playing PlanetSide 2 for 2 years, and I can agree with everything said here. For a new person, it's all excitement and awe when you first spawn in and find a massive battle with 100 players on both sides. You do die, but you don't really care because you're all lost in the fun. But give it some time though, 1,300 hours in my case. The excitement mellows and you begin to see the game for what it is. It's far from unplayable, but it feels hollow, repetitive and weak. A huge team deathmatch with no strategy to be seen. Bugs are everywhere, features are half implemented, and we keep getting content that makes sales. To top it all off, we get no communication from DGB. Sure, the art director sometimes posts pictures and gets feedback, but we never see the main liaison, Radar X, unless the community is happy, and we're not. I don't blame anyone for not wanting to show their face to an angry community, but Radar doesn't have that luxury. He's the community manager, and that's not always a cushy job. Unfortunately, he needs to realise this. Before the sellout and firing early this year, almost every dev was active in the community, which I do remember. I used to follow the devs because they would tweet all the time. In fact, the guy who gave me what did he give me? Keys to give away for PlanetSide 2. I can't remember his name. He was the lead dev. It was the lead dev of the game. You'd know his face if you've seen him. He's the NC guy. He likes the new conglomerate. He was active all the time, but obviously don't work for them anymore, so why would he be active? But blah, okay, whatever. So he said it's been a fun 2 years and it's costing $400. But now I fear for PlanetSide 2's life. PlanetSide was my first FPS, and words can't describe the feelings I had for it in the first 6 months. Those feelings grew dim as the months passed, but I still truly love the game. To see the game deteriorating really hurts. All good things must come to an end, but not like that. That to me sums up like my experience. Like, obviously I haven't played for 1,300 hours, but I was really taken back with it. I was really in awe, and then it just got really crappy and boring, and it didn't really seem to change. And there was loads of bugs. There was like the point that there was no objective to the game again was a problem, because it's like you just all you did was go around the map capturing the bases. You remember when we did it in the Platoon, which it has changed since then a little bit. They do have this other system in place, or at least last time I played. But when we went round in the Platoon, we'd go in full force, have a massive battle, capture like a bio lab. As soon as we moved away, it's getting captured back. It's like, what the hell? You don't just want to sit in one area. You want to go, like, you needed a front that moved, and they just never had that.
Yeah.
Mr. Kirioff, I think we'll end it at that. We've covered quite a lot of stuff in this hotfix, and as we said at the start of the hotfix is going back to how it was, where it's laser focused. We are splitting off the discussion about what we've played and the more like informal stuff into a separate show, which will be more of an easy listening session, I guess, instead of like a hardcore opinionated debate, as what a hotfix is. And as I'm pretty sure hotfix is probably the only one, I'm going to say, on the internet, bloke, that provides in this kind of, it is so honest, because we don't talk shit, because we don't care what anybody says to us about it.
That is something, when it comes to listening, I have to admit, I listen to a few podcasts.
Yeah.
Like, there's only one that I've ever come across where I've heard people be kind of as blunt as we are with some stuff. And even then, it's only ever been like one person. And that one person, funny enough, is a Brit, and it's Gavin from Rooster Teeth, who, on a couple of their podcasts, has made comments about how YouTube is not great. Or say a certain content creator, his content is not good. And that kind of honesty you don't find very often, because there's a culture, I guess, that has cropped up where if you're going to talk outwardly about subjects to do with YouTube, to do with money, to do with games, to do with developers, to do with game audiences, you've got to kind of wrap it up in something nice. But the thing is that if you wrap stuff up too much, you don't get a point. There's no point to it. There's no definitive statement. There's no true opinion. There's just kind of dancing around the issue. And we don't sit here like day to day and dance around issues when we talk about stuff. We just talk about it because that's what we do. So that's all that HOTFIX is, and all HOTFIX will ever be, is if we see something that we think needs talking about, we will talk about it completely honestly, because if you're not going to be honest, then what's the point? Otherwise, you're just filling the air with just nonsense. If you're not going to say what you think without without dressing it up in some sort of nice flowery wording, or trying to get your point across without just saying what you mean, then you're not really getting your point across. And that's what we've always aimed to do, because that's just how we are. That's one of the best things about HOTFIX, in my opinion.
Well, let's leave it at that for this week, guys. As I did say at the start, if you do enjoy HOTFIX enough to support HOTFIX, then please check out patreon.com/HOTFIX. There's a link in the description, and we'll see how that goes down. But yeah, and also make sure you comment on all of the topics that we've spoke about. I would like to see opinions from people that do play games like PlanetSide, maybe, or any of the other stuff we spoke about. Well, just give me. I mean, the World of Warcraft thing. Please comment on that. That is really annoying. What did you think about Battlefront? Like, how do you think it would be? Do you agree with what I said about the iconic battles and stuff like that? Let us know, guys. We do like the comments on HOTFIX. They are absolutely high quality comments. I mean, in terms of YouTube, they are the best comments you could ever find on videos.
I was going to say, if you go to any HOTFIX and compare the comments to pretty much any other video, it's just, I don't even know an analogy that like actually sums it up. They are just so much better. It is almost unbelievable how much better they are than pretty much any other comments on any other video. It's amazing.
All right then, guys, we're going to leave it at that, because it's party time, Mr. Kirill. Okay then. Yeah, well, awesome. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll catch you next time. Toodaloo.